Welcome everybody to UTOOLS. This is our seventh and final session in 2020. We'll start back up in the spring. We'll probably just repeat sessions, so they'll be very similar. So if there's any that you missed, if you want to participate in live, stay tuned because we will be doing these again in the spring. This is a collaboration between a nonprofit called Career Transitions Incorporated and the University of Michigan Dearborn. We received a grant from the Michigan College Access Network to provide these informational sessions to you. And so please listen today, pay attention to Miss Stacy Boone, who presented before. She's returning to talk with us today about community and college resources. Let me turn off the music. We don't have our tech person today. We don't have Alex, so I'm kind of writing solo. We also don't have Antoinette. So I'm gonna stop sharing and give me a second.
For what it's worth, I thought you did an excellent job DJing. I really did.
I had a wonderful millennial mentor help me out about 15 minutes before the rest of you guys came on.
Great.
So I think I said that before. Anybody who's over 40 needs a millennial mentor who's under like 30, right? Okay. Before I hand it over to Stacy, I just want to ask everybody who hasn't done it yet to write their name in the chat, and also suggest a movie that the rest of us can watch over the holidays. So it doesn't look like we can really go out and do much. And so I bet most of us will be sitting at home doing a lot of movie watching. And so we need some suggestions. And if you have a camera and if you're able to find a picture of your favorite movie, you can make it your background. So I'll start by sharing Jingle Jangle, which just came out this past November. I've watched snippets of it, but I haven't had the opportunity to sit down and watch the whole thing, but it's a musical and it looks really cute. It's very colorful. The cast is mostly people of color, so I think that's really cool too. And it's on Netflix, and so I would encourage you all to take a look at it if you get a chance, if you've got Netflix. So if anybody else wants to share, now's the time.
I'll go.
Thank you.
Mine's a little different. I picked one of my favorite holiday movies. It's called Krampus. It's actually a little different than a regular holiday movie. It's kind of scary but funny, and we watch it every year. And I don't know, it's a family favorite for me and my husband now, so I recommend it.
I was wondering what your background was.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anybody else want to share? I see Tavia has Wonder behind her.
Yeah, that's supposed to be Jingle Jangle. I got a chance to watch the whole movie, and I have a little one here who's still dancing, and she puts it on repeat. But I put in the chat there Christmas Chronicles as well, because I saw that you had Jingle Jangle, and that was a cute movie. So if you have kids, I mean, it's definitely a kids movie, but I thought it was really creative and unique. I think they even have a Christmas Chronicles too. So there's a nice list going on if you guys are looking for something over the break.
Yeah, I'm writing some of these down.
I'm just rewatching Gilmore Girls right now. That's where my life is at. Yeah, it's just where I am as a person.
Okay.
Barry Boy, what are you watching right now?
What is that? Gilmore Girls. What? I've never heard of that.
You would be thoroughly irritated by Gilmore Girls. Thoroughly. I'm gonna let you know. I'm just gonna be very honest with you right now. You would do the opposite of enjoy that. Whatever that looks like for you as a particular individual.
Yeah, I put in there The Grinch with Jim Carrey. I mean, I had different Grinch movies, but the Jim Carrey, The Grinch is a classic. That's probably one of the funnest movies I think I've ever seen in my life.
How did I forget about Love Actually?
It's good too.
I love Love Actually. I forgot about that movie.
Never heard of that one either.
You wouldn't like it.
Is there any movie I would like that you would recommend?
No. No.
Okay. Any others?
Stranger Than Fiction. You might like Stranger Than Fiction.
Stranger Than Fiction. No, never heard of that one either.
I think it was Will Ferrell.
Oh, okay.
Probably one of the slightly more serious roles he's ever played. These are not Christmas. Well, Love Actually is a Christmas themed movie. Stranger Than Fiction is not. It's just a great movie.
Oh, okay.
What was the first one that you said?
The first one I said was Love Actually. Stranger Than Fiction is not the one that I'm thinking about with Will Ferrell, but Stranger Than Fiction was a really good movie, even though it is not Christmas themed either.
It doesn't have to be Christmas.
Okay, yeah, it's a really good movie. It's about these two humans who realize that their fate is essentially written by what we would perceive to be God. But they want to try to define that to be together, but the story is literally being written. And there are people on earth who are posed to push them in one direction or the other based on their will or based on the will of this higher being. And so then they have to figure out how to not live their life according to the writing. It's a really interesting concept. Anyway, I think you might like that because it would confuse you. But yeah, that's probably the only movie I'd recommend for you.
Okay.
If I'm being honest.
Any other suggestions before we get started? Anybody else feel like sharing?
We can't be the only ones watching movies.
I know.
Not possible.
Well, today they don't. I mean, they have the TV. They have a lot of series now, TV series.
Well, I'm not much of that movie person until the new movies come out, but I'm watching shows right now.
What shows are you watching?
Stuff like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and stuff like that. I'm more into like fantasy and action and shit and like so.
Got you. Okay.
Okay. All right.
Also rewatching One-on-One if anyone's interested. They just put that on Netflix. Or was it Hulu? It's Netflix, I think.
Okay.
What is One-on-One?
Okay, so One-on-One is one of those like 90s classic TV series. And so they're bringing back a lot of those. But essentially it's, the mom is like a PhD marine biologist. Her dad is a retired NBA star who's a sportscaster, and he's like the eligible bachelor. And then mom is like, hey, I need you to take the teenager because I've got to go overseas to do this research. And they just fumble into trying to figure out how to live together. After he's been, living his own life for so long, he has to learn how to be a father. And then she, of course, has to learn that she's not the center of the universe. And they figure it out in quirky ways together and within 30 minutes every episode. That's all.
Yeah. The series that I watch are not family series.
Oh.
So I can't even suggest them.
All right. Yeah, so there's a private chat feature. I'm interested to know what you're watching.
Okay. But you know what? My son is 11 and he's been watching Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. So we just had to subscribe to HBO Max.
Oh.
And I'm not real happy about that. But for one show, we had to subscribe to it, right? And he's loving it. And I was, I thought it was cute when I was a kid, but I didn't
like really connect with it.
Yeah.
Who's your internet provider?
18 UVerse.
Okay, so you might get it for free. I'm not sure. I have AT&T's fiber optic, but they sent me an email that said HBO is included now and I can just log in. So you
Oh.
might be paying for it unnecessarily. I would check and see.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right. Thank you.
Of course, that way you don't have to be mad at yourself. All right, but should we just dive in? Because I want
Yeah,
to make sure
go ahead.
we respect that time frame.
Yeah.
All right. So just so that everyone is clear, I want to make sure that we understand what we'll be doing today. I'm going to walk you through a PowerPoint that a couple of you may have already seen if you were on the last call when I was here, to just go over the basics of financial aid and what that looks like at an institution. And then I have a very small spreadsheet that I'll share it with Perry Boyd, who I guess can email it to the adults in the room. And then we will also talk about the Park West Foundation a little bit more and what kind of services that can offer and why students should absolutely connect with them. But before we jump into that, my name is Stacy Boone. I have worked in college access and worked somehow alongside Perry Boyd for years. But I'm very excited to be here. Foster youth is a population that I've always tried to make sure was uplifted and educated on all the things that are available to them, and know that all the same opportunities are available as long as they're plugged in with the right people, finding their people and grounding themselves. You all have so much available to you, and your unique experiences bring so much to any facet of work, any facet of education, any facet of social life and experience. So I'm here to make sure that we are working together to support you in whatever it is that you want to do, so that your voices are heard and that your influence is felt. And I will hop in to financial aid now. I also want to, okay. I am also wanting to make sure that we differentiate between questions of clarity versus questions of personal nature. So if I say something and you don't understand what I said, it doesn't make sense, you need me to repeat it or restate it so that you can follow along with what I'm saying, let me know. However, if I say something and it makes you think, I wonder how that applies to me in my freshman year of college, go ahead and hold on to that question until the end, or drop it in the chat and we are good to go. So I will share my screen. And I will flurry through this because some of you may have already seen it. All right, so one of the names of the game will be follow the money, especially when you are applying to colleges and you want to make sure that this is going to be a good fit for your unique experience, especially in foster youth, having to make sure that they have somewhere to stay year round, that they have access to the resources they need for clothing and food and a lot of these other things that you need to be alive while you are taking classes. You want to make sure that you are leveraging your relationships with the colleges to get the most bang for your buck and the most out of your time being at that institution. So the first step that is important is filling out your FAFSA. The FAFSA unlocks so much funding from a bunch of different places. At the federal level, it unlocks Pell, work study, and loans. Pell is a grant that is given to you based on financial need. Being in foster care, you're automatically considered having financial need, so you will be eligible for a Pell Grant. I believe this year's Pell Grant is $6,395, but it might be $6,495. Work study is work. Essentially, they find you a job on campus or with an off-campus partner. You will fulfill whatever the terms are of that work study, and they pay you a wage. So you earn that money, and you don't have to pay that back because you went to work to earn it. Loans are what we all know loans to be. That is money that you have to pay back. Most loans have interest tied to them. There's only one kind that does not. Our goal is to avoid loans if at all possible. And you are uniquely positioned being in foster care. Sometimes it can feel like, oh, I'm not sure where to go, where to start, how to put this all together. But there are people, there are foundations, there are lots of resources out there that are willing to come together and piece this funding together with you. We'll talk about that a little bit later. The tuition incentive program, many of you will automatically be eligible for this, but you can contact the state of Michigan Treasury if you want to be sure. That is funding that pays out either at an associate degree program at a community college or at a four-year school, or once you cross into the second half of your degree, if you're going for a bachelor's degree, it will pay out at a four-year institution. But once you transfer to that four-year institution or cross that bridge into junior status, it only pays out $500. It's not going to be an issue because we're going to go after those scholarships. You also want to make sure that you are aware of verification. Understand that being in foster care, when you fill out the FAFSA, you will not have a parent to list on the FAFSA. And because you do not have a parent to list on the FAFSA, you are guaranteeing that you will be selected for verification. One of the things that you can do to make this as smooth as possible for yourself is make sure you are in contact with your social worker, who can give you what's called, I believe, a Form 945. They will fill that form out attesting to the fact that you are in foster care currently. You will take that form and give a copy of it. Don't give the original. Give a copy of it to the financial aid office. And what you can do, most of you on your cell phone, you have a scanner app already built into your camera. So you hover the phone over the document and it'll ask, oh, this looks like a document. Do you want to scan it? You will scan it, email it to yourself, and you will have a copy for all of the times that you need it. You will have to submit that form every single year, but you'll already have it in your email, so it won't be an issue. Once they get that form from you, they can provide an override that gives you independent status, and you will not be required to provide parental information. Some key points to keep in mind is that every college has a different budget. Each student will have their own circumstances, and you want to compare your award letters because every college is not the same. Some colleges have a lot of money. Some colleges have a little bit of money and they're a little bit shy with giving it away. You're going to have to do some comparisons to find the place that's the right fit for you. So each college has different budgets because of their endowments, because of special funding that might be left behind. For example, I had a friend who at the school he went to for his bachelor's degree, someone left a scholarship behind for African-American students who needed help with clothing. And I believe he got it was either $500 or $5,000 just for clothes. And he had to go spend the money and then turn in receipts demonstrating that he spent that money on clothing. So sometimes that's left by alumni or local donors. There are government appropriations. We all live in Michigan. We spend money and pay taxes here. So there's money that comes from the state to help us go to school in Michigan. If you leave Michigan to go to college, you do not get the benefit of getting money from the college to help you pay out of their general funding, because general funds typically come from the tax base. If you don't live in that state, you usually do not get that tax benefit. Some states have what's called reciprocity. So some states like Ohio or Illinois or Indiana, for example, will say our economies are really closely intertwined. So we will give students from these few states the same tuition rate that we give ours, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you can get institutional funding from them. So make sure you're aware of that as well. Some colleges are able to fundraise a little bit better, and we'll get into that in a bit. The financial aid office are ruled by federal guidelines. So even if you want $30 million in your freshman year, unless it costs you $30 million to go to that school, they cannot award that to you all at once. Your cost of attendance, EFC, is going to be zero because you will not be considered a dependent student. But bear in mind that the cost of attendance is an estimate, and some of that boils down to your lifestyle. So if you are a student who says, I want to take my refund check and get a Louis belt, you are going to need a little bit more money than the other student who doesn't spend their money in those ways. Make sure you understand the terms and conditions of your different awards. If you are applying to 5 different scholarships that are worth $20,000 each, but they all only cover tuition and mandatory fees, you're gonna have to pick one of those scholarships if they all can only be spent on the same thing. So make sure you're applying to a variety of different awards so that you can make sure you have money to spend on different things. Some scholarships are first, middle, and last dollar. First dollar means the scholarship will pay out before anything else. Middle dollar means that it will require a certain amount of funding from somewhere else to be spent. Then it'll come in the middle, and then you'll need something else to pick up the rear. And some are last dollar, which generally means I want to see everything else you have apply first, or maybe just all of the gift aid you have apply first before I will pay out. Make sure you talk to the financial aid office about whether these awards can stack on top of each other or whether they cancel each other out so that you can have a thorough understanding of your award letter. The order of the funding type in the application is what we just went through. And usually, financial aid offices do not have an incentive to act against your best interest. Usually, they are acting in your best interest. However, if you are looking at schools that do not have a very large budget, sometimes you may find that it is in their best interest to give you a more difficult time because they have a certain amount of money to spend and they're trying to spread it out across as many students as possible. But if you are shooting for those more competitive schools, those schools with larger endowments, or those schools that have programs specifically for foster youth, you are more likely to land in a place that is going to put you in a better position financially. Graduation rates matter. If you don't remember anything else that I say, graduation rates matter. There's a school, for example, in Texas, Paul Quinn College. They had a 1% graduation rate for 10 years. I think they got it up to maybe 9 or 19% recently in the last few years, but they had a 1% graduation rate for 10 years. What that means is if 150 students step onto campus, their clock starts ticking for freshman year. Graduation rates are measured 6 years after you enroll in that 4-year college. If over time out of that 150, 50 of those students decide to transfer to Harvard, to Wayne County Community College, to Eastern Michigan, to Michigan State, 100 students are left at Paul Quinn College. And what that means is out of those 100 students who did not go to another school, 6 years after they started their freshman year when they should be graduating, only one student out of every 100 who stayed actually slid across the stage with a degree. The other 99 students were either taking longer than 6 years to finish a 4-year degree, or they dropped out and never went back to anyone else's college. This matters to you for a few reasons. One is their fundraising ability. So how are you to run into alumni who have started these huge business ventures or work for these companies with large budgets where they can build partnerships specifically with your school that give them more funding for you? Or you'll see in my background, I went to U of M Dearborn for my undergrad. I went to Michigan State for my master's degree. I get an email about 5 times a year from U of M that says, this is a courtesy that you can still donate to us before the tax year ends. You're welcome. And Michigan State has someone call me a few times a year. His name is Michael. I hope he graduates soon so he stops calling me. But he updates me on his major and he's playing intramural basketball and what he's been up to on campus. And then he asks me for money so that they can give it to other students as scholarships and grants. Both schools have very high graduation rates, which means they have more people to ask for money. If your college has a 1% graduation rate, that means they have a very small number of people who've graduated and gotten jobs whom they can then go back and ask for money that turns into scholarships and grants for you. So graduation rates matter because it directly affects how much money a college might be able to offer you. It also matters when you leave the school and now you're looking for work. How likely is it that when you apply for a job, the recruiter or the person running the position or running the organization is going to recognize the school that you went to or have a positive feeling about it if your school only graduates 1 out of every 100 people? Or how likely is it that you're going to meet someone who says, oh, I just had to meet another grad from the same college that I went to, or from the same college that my spouse went to? So graduation rates matter not only for the money a school can offer you, but also because it matters when you get out into the world of work and you're looking for mentors, you're looking for job leads, you are looking for connections within your field. And then you want to make sure that you compare your award letters. More money offered doesn't always mean less expenses. If you have a school where the cost of attendance is $30,000 and they offer you $27,000 in aid, you need to come up with $3,000 at that school. Another school might only cost $15,000, but I'm sorry, it may cost $60,000 and they may offer you $40,000, but that's a $20,000 difference between what you need. So just because one school offers you more money than another doesn't mean that it's covering most or enough of the expenses. Make sure you are comparing how much it is going to cost you out of pocket, which is also called the net cost. Make sure you're comparing award letters to ensure that you are getting the funding that you need. You also want to ask, is this funding renewable or is it for the first year only? Some colleges, especially colleges that have smaller budgets, will do what's called front loading, which means that they'll get you in the door freshman year by offering you a good amount of money. And then you come back sophomore year, and now they're giving all that money to the next group of freshmen, and they're expecting you to take out loans or work while you're in school to try to figure that out. So make sure you're asking that question so you know what your experience will be like at that school. What do I have to do to keep this funding? There will be some schools that guarantee funding for you as long as you maintain the minimum GPA, simply because they want to support foster youth. There are going to be some schools that will say this scholarship is tied to your athletic ability, or this scholarship is tied to a certain GPA, or it's tied to you not changing your major from one thing to another. Make sure you understand the terms so that you know how to keep up with your funding. Are there any questions? All right. So I am going to share my screen again. And this time, oh wait, where did it do that to me? Here we go. All right, can everyone see this spreadsheet? Okay, so this is just a sample of things that students should be focusing on, and we'll visit a couple of these websites, and I will send this to Perry Boyd so that he can forward it out to all of you, and you can share it with the students, even the ones who aren't on the call. But essentially, just found a sampling of programs and places where they can find other funding. This is essentially what that program will help with. If they left contact information or it was relevant to have that, I did leave that there. If there was an application, I was able to link it for you. I'm still looking for the Fostering Futures one because it's not open yet. They don't have their official application up, but I can link an example if you'd like to see it. There are some colleges who have it posted. But let's start with Foster Youth in Transition, which, why do you ask so many questions? All right, here we go. I am going to stop sharing and then start sharing again, and I'll just share the whole screen. And I think that will make this visible. All right, can you all see my screen? Perfect. Okay, so we'll visit the Foster Youth in Transition website first. You will note that the page that loads has a bunch of high school planning opportunities on it. So some of this will help you find the ed planners, but I'm pretty sure you all are well connected to the ed planners for Wayne County already. It will also help you understand what credits are, which will also be knowledge that you can transfer to college, understanding how to prep for it. What are we, a mix of grades here? Is everyone a senior? What does that look like?
I'm in the
10th grade, okay. Giovanni, what were you saying?
almost 8. I'm in 11.
11th, okay. Okay, so you all still got some time, great. So I would definitely recommend that you look through these when you get a moment, because there's still some time for you to figure out, do I need to talk to my counselor about taking some different classes to better prep me for college? Do I have dual enrollment options available to me? Things like that. If you scroll down that page, there's a lot more information for you. So the Fostering Future Scholarships, which will also be linked on the spreadsheet, a college affordability guide that can change from year to year. So I'm not sure if they've updated this yet. And then just the list of the colleges that are available in the city, an explanation of accreditation. And then if you were to start at a community college, or if you want to transfer between four-year schools, this will help you figure out how to navigate that. Some general things about applying to college. And probably the most important part of this page is financial aid. So you'll see that they've got Baker College, EMU, Wayne State, U of M Flint, Saginaw Valley State, Michigan State University, Aquinas College, Western, U of M, Ferris. They've got some info on Harvard. And then they've got the education training voucher, which is also on that spreadsheet. And then some scholarships, if this is one of your identities, some scholarships that are specifically collected and aimed toward African-American students. And then some more information on exploring and applying to college. And AmeriCorps, which I want to highlight because AmeriCorps is how I got started in this work, is an opportunity for you to volunteer for your country, and they will give you a scholarship that is equivalent of that year's Pell Grant to put toward college when you're ready to activate that funding. But I want to come back to these colleges so that you can see that they are here and linked, and you can come peruse these at your leisure. But I would recommend that you look into these programs ASAP. So this page is linked in the spreadsheet, and if you click on it, scroll down to financial aid, you'll see a list of these colleges. This is only a sampling of what is available. Some colleges, I will be honest with you, some colleges do really well with their foster care programs. Some colleges are just kind of piecing some things together. So you want to contact the colleges to ask how their program runs, what is available to you. So there are some schools that will say, we raise a lot of money to make sure your cost of attendance is met, but we don't have a mentoring program, or we don't have a collective experience program. There are some colleges that will say, we raise a good amount of money, but we also hire people who check in on you 2-3 times a week. We hire people who stay up all throughout the night in case you have some sort of emergency and you need someone to talk to, or you need someone to come get you from somewhere. We have people on staff who are available for you. Some colleges will tell you that they are working behind the scenes with your professors to make sure that you have added support, and that's a thing that they've built into their program. Every school is going to look a little bit different. Some students are going to want that hand-holding. Some students are going to want that mentorship. Some students are going to say, I feel pretty fine socially. I feel good about being able to connect with other students and navigate. Money is the more important factor, or opportunities on campus is the more important factor. You can ask all of these questions to these colleges, figure out what's most important to you, and let that help you decide where you would like to land. Also, this list is not final, it is not exhaustive. There are other programs that are available at other colleges. This is simply a good place to start. This is a good place to start. And again, I will highlight that some of these colleges work really, really hard to make sure that they have enough money for you to not pay anything. So make sure you are asking the right questions. The education training voucher has a somewhat complicated application, but I'm certain that the people that you are working with, your social worker, will be able to walk you through that. Other people in your support system will be able to, but you have to submit a form to get a PIN first, and then you'll be able to use that PIN to apply for the voucher. It can be renewed every year, but you have to go back to renew it every year, and these are the things that they will need. So I linked you to the general page where you'll be able to find that information. Also, their contact info is on the bottom if you have questions, as well as their hours. Their office is generally pretty accessible. Fostering Futures actually just had 2 fundraisers that were super fun, but they raise money for foster youth to be able to provide funding for you all. So the education training voucher is up to $5,000 toward a cost of attendance, and Fostering Futures will give you up to $3,000 a year for cost of attendance, and that can be renewed as well. I want to point out that in foster youth, youth in transition, there is funding available there. It is not specified how much necessarily, and it is not to be spent on direct college costs, i.e. tuition, fees. However, if you don't have enough money from Pell, from education training voucher, from Fostering Futures, from other scholarships and grants that you might have to meet the needs of housing, to meet the needs of food, to meet the needs of clothing, you could then tap into funding from Youth in Transition to have them make up some of that difference. The Park West Foundation, and we'll take you to that website. I want to make sure that we spend a little bit of time talking about this organization. This is an organization that I work with during the day. They specialize in working with foster youth and occasionally youth who are just simply unaccompanied or homeless, but they specialize in working with foster youth. And they have some very interesting programming going on right now. So I will add that to the list of things that I emailed to Mr. Boyd. But they are looking for foster youth to support. And oh, hi, doggo. They're looking for foster youth to support. And they will offer $500 as an award for students who sign up and complete certain steps. So in you completing these steps, it is going to walk you through the things that you need to be prepared to transition to college. So one of those steps is completing your FAFSA. Show proof that you did that, they check that off. Another one of those steps is making sure you understand TIP eligibility. You complete that step, they check that off. Another one is making sure you have a professional email address. Please have a professional email address. I had a student email me one year whose email address was joyroadkiller something, 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 and was trying to figure out why he couldn't get responses from jobs and internships. You need a professional email address. So that is something else they will require of you. But once you complete all of those steps, you will get $500. It is not competitive. Every student who signs up and completes those steps will get that money. Then when August comes around, they will ask you, what did you do with that money? And you can get up to an additional $150 if you can demonstrate that you were responsible with that funding. But throughout that time, as they're walking you through the steps to get the $500, they are also connecting you to all of the scholarship and grant foundations that they have in their network. This is an organization that works very hard to make sure students find a school that is a good fit for them, to make sure I have not yet seen a student go through this program who has had to come up with any money to go to college. They do a very good job of working very hard to make sure that they are piecing together enough scholarships, enough grant funding to make sure that you are able to go to class, have a place to live, have the food you need, have the clothing you need without having to work to pay for it and without having to worry how it would be covered, and also without that loan debt. That is not a guarantee, but that is a testament to the work that they do. They will take on an unlimited number of students. So please don't feel like, oh, there's not enough room in that program for me. There absolutely is. We talked at length this morning. They are happy to have all of you. They're excited to meet you, and I will send on the information for how you can connect with them. But again, this program will do everything from helping you find the funding to if you are going to campus and you need a ride because you don't have another way to move up there, they will arrange for that for you. If you don't have the supplies for your dorm as far as sheets, a microwave, if you need a computer, they have access to the funding to make sure that those things happen so you have what you need to have a smooth college experience. And they are also able to support and help even now. If there are things that you need, they are plugged in across the state. They are plugged into all of the sources of funding, and they are happy to not only point you in the right direction, but walk there with you. So please make sure you take advantage of your opportunity to be connected to this program. They will stick with you through the completion of your degree. They also have a very interesting program where once you've gone through all the steps to transition into college, they invite you back to then be able to talk to high schoolers, to share with them your experiences and walk them through those steps as well. And I think they pay you to do it as well. So they might hire you to do some work afterwards. Bigfuture.org is not specific to foster youth. However, this is probably one of my favorite websites ever. Can someone do me a favor and drop in the chat a college that you're interested in? If there's a 4-year school that you're interested in, if you could drop that in the chat for me, and I can demonstrate what this looks like. All right, Eastern. Thank you, Selena. Oh, I have a sister named Selena. Eastern or UMich. Okay, we can look up both. All right, so let's start with Eastern. So you go to the search, you click on the school when they find it, and they have lots of information on the school. They'll tell you where it's located. There's a cute picture of campus. They'll give you a description of the school. You have a lot of different options alongside this panel of learning more about the college. This is going to be one of the most important things. They have a 46% graduation rate within 6 years. What that means is out of every 100 students who stays, 46 of them finish a degree. This is their average financial aid package, but this number will be a little bit different from you because most of the students who are going to Eastern are expected to find funding with their families. Foster youth are usually given a bit more grace, and they will work a little bit harder to make sure that your cost of attendance is met. They also have the MAGIC program there that works really hard to make sure that foster youth has what they need as well. If you click on applying, you can get information about their selectivity, you can get information about their application fee, you can get information about what matters to this college, because every college doesn't care about the same thing. So for example, you'll see here that they care about your academic GPA. It's important to know what your academic GPA is. Some students think my overall GPA is the only thing that schools want to see, and that's the number I need to memorize. However, your academic GPA can tell a very different story. I knew of a student whose his overall GPA was maybe a 2.8 or a 2.9, which wasn't as competitive as he wanted to apply to the college that he was applying to, but his academic GPA was a 3.4. And he was able to explain some of the things that he was going through in his personal life and how when he was in gym, maybe he got put out of class on purpose so he could go take a nap at the counselor's office. I don't recommend doing that. Please don't do that. However, he was able to demonstrate how some of the things that were happening in his life made it so that he needed to make choices. He had a sister at home who had some respiratory issues, so he would stay up all night making sure she didn't stop breathing in her sleep, but that meant he was tired in school. And in explaining all of that, he was able to appeal to what was important to the school and show why, even though he'd been through all this stuff, he was still a competitive applicant. He actually graduated about a year and a half ago, actually. So make sure you know what's important to the college and what their ranking is. You can also click on application requirements and they will tell you what that school wants to see. If they list it, they will tell you also whether they accept some of the AP exams or the CLEP exams. They will tell you what courses they require you to have taken in high school. They will also show you the general class rank. They will show you the list of GPAs for the incoming freshman class as well. And they will show you ACT and SAT data. This is going to look a little bit different this year because of the pandemic. That exam wasn't widely available. So you're going to see a lot of that information disappear likely until the coming year where we can get a handle on the pandemic. For U of M, this is a great way to compare schools. They'll tell you where they're located. They will give you a description of the school. Most important thing you want to look at, 93% graduation rate. That means 93 out of every 100 students finishes a degree in 6 years. This average financial aid package is not going to apply to you for a couple of reasons. One, U of M just went on a fundraising frenzy and they intended to raise $5 billion and made a mistake and raised 9 instead. So what that means is they have a lot of money to be able to give away to students. But also because you are in foster care, they have a program, the Blevins Scholar Program, that specifically makes sure that you have the money you need to get through. Now, when you are looking at applying, and I'm glad that you chose this school, you'll see that there are some things that they listed that were important to them and that were considered that did not show up on Eastern's profile because different schools are looking for different things. So this is a great place to figure out how to strategize with your application. They will tell you what classes they want to see. They didn't report class rank because they are so competitive. And I don't know why this isn't loading, but generally the lowest GPA they accepted was between a 3.0 and a 3.2. 1% of their students came from that range. 1% came between a 3.2 and a 3.4, 9% between a 3.5 and a 3.7, and then the remainder came above that. Now, don't let those numbers make you think that you might not be a competitive applicant. They are looking at your application in the context of where you are coming from. So if you are a student who has a 3.7 when the average GPA at your college is a 2.4, you are a superstar and you are the student that they want. If you are a student who has a 3.3 when the average GPA at your high school is a 1.0, you are the superstar, you are the student they want. If you're the student who has a 3.7 where the average GPA at your high school is a 4.0, you are not the superstar. You are not as likely to get in unless you've got some other things in your application that outweigh that. The point being, you don't know what you look like to that college when you put together your full financial aid or your full application packet. They're also going to consider that things were a little bit different for you because of your foster care background, and they will weigh that more heavily as well. The last thing that I'll point out is you'll see that their application fee is $75, but it will be waived for applicants with financial need. So U of M is one of those schools that does not require you to pay your application fee up front. They will have you submit your application, submit your FAFSA, and if it looks as though you can afford it, they'll send you a bill later. If it looks like you cannot, then they cover the cost. But another thing to bear in mind is that Christmas is coming up. And a lot of schools around Christmas time will waive the application fee in the spirit of giving. And even if they don't advertise it, you can call and say, hey, in foster care, I'm going to need a little bit of support, but I'm interested in your college. They can usually find someone's budget to waive those costs for you. You are also, and I'll stop sharing the screen, you are also at an advantage right now because one, the population of college-age students is down. Two, the number of students who enrolled in college from the class of 2020 is down because of the pandemic. So college enrollment is really low for both of those reasons, and colleges are desperate. This is your time to play the field. This is your time to apply to any college that you can and see what they can offer you. This is your time to spread your net as far and wide as you can and see what colleges can offer you. Compare those award letters, ask those questions, make sure you are talking to your mentors, make sure you're talking it out with friends and people that you trust. Make sure you are organizing the things that are important for you. Do not choose a school because that's where your friend is going. Your friend's needs might be different from your own. But if you can figure out what it is you're looking for in a school, you then are equipped with the questions you need to ask those colleges to make sure that they can carry you financially, to make sure that they have the adult support that you need, to make sure that they have the community that you want to find on campus. Are there any questions at all?
I just had one really quick.
Yeah.
I come to these to get more information about school because I'm already in school. I guess it's more of a personal question. But since I'm already in school, my Pell Grant, can I keep applying for my Pell Grant each year or each semester, or is it just each year?
It's each year.
Okay.
Each year. So when you get that Pell Grant, when you do your FAFSA, you'll be eligible for Pell. They split that up over the semesters and apply part of it, like the first half first semester, the second half second semester.
And then if I want to transfer colleges, will that mess up my scholarships or any of my grants, or no?
So anything you get from the federal level, as long as you are transferring to a college that's eligible to receive federal funding, which usually depends on their accreditation, anything you get from the federal level will be able to follow you. However, if you're getting a scholarship that comes from the college itself, they are not going to pay that out for you to go to another school, right?
Right.
So that may happen in that way. But if you've earned some private scholarships, you just wrote some essays and got some money, you can contact them and let them know that you are intending to switch institutions. Usually they don't care. They just want to spend the money so they can get a tax write-off.
Okay.
Yes, but what school are you looking to transfer to?
So I had recently transferred to Eastern, and that's why I had said Eastern. But
Okay.
after this year's completed, I want to go to Wayne State because I'm going for social work, and Wayne State's one of the better schools for social work.
Okay.
So I don't know how to go
okay.
about.
Wayne State has a TIP program. I will get in contact with them now, and they will hold your hand walking through everything you need to transition.
I actually have TIP. I have the TIP scholarship.
Oh, yes. So TIP comes from the state of Michigan. Wayne State has their own program where they just came up with an acronym and called it TIP.
Okay.
Confusing, but that's what they named the program. But it is a program that focuses specifically on foster youth. It is a very strong program. So if you feel like the school is a good fit for you, make sure you plug into that program ahead of time so that they can walk you through everything you need to transition over.
Okay. Thank you.
Of course. Are there any other questions? Any questions at all? Nothing is too small. Nothing is too ridiculous. Nothing is a bother. The reason we show up at 5 o'clock in the evening after a full day's work is because we are happy to do this work. We are happy to support you. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. Or if it's something you don't want to ask out loud, you can chat me privately. That's fine too. Okay, well, I will hang out in case someone is hammering away on the keys for the chat, but otherwise that's the presentation. And I will, I'll make sure that I send the follow-up materials to Mr. Boyd.
Thank you, Stacy.
Of course.
We have just a couple more things to do before we let you guys go. I want you to take a poll, so I'm going to start that right now. I'm going to share one more thing. Like I said, you have to forgive me. We don't have our techie on our Zoom call tonight. Can you guys see this at all? Hang on.
I see it. Oh, no, I don't. Let's see.
Okay.
There it is.
Okay, great. So again, this is our Facebook page at UTOOLS College Prep, Instagram at UTOOLS College Prep, and then the U of M Dearborn's website for the TRIO programs. You'll see that on there. If you need to email us, if you have a question that you want to email us after the session, you can email us at utoolscollegeprep@gmail.com. And then our YouTube channel, UMD Trio Programs. Okay. Okay. All right, guys. Have a good night. Thank you so much, Stacy. We appreciate it.